Hello. I was taking a walk on the greenway that's by my house. And there's a little wall. It's about maybe 4.5, 5 inches wide, about 2 feet tall. Near the sidewalk by a stream, creek. And when I was a little kid, I used to like to walk along little walls that were along one of the main streets near my house and balance. In those days, in high school, junior high school, we had what we call a balance beam. We walked back and forth on it. And I think gymnastic people will do many more things like cartwheels on it. Oops, never do that. But, had a little bit of training in balance, not much. But since I was all by myself, me and Dad, I just thought I'd walk on this little wall for a second, for old time's sake. And the Spirit spoke to me and said, that's the narrow way. That's what it's like. Because it took some concentration to stay on that little wall. I knew if I fell off that wall unexpectedly, especially because I was just not paying attention, I could have consequences. Could break an ankle, a bad sprain, not, dire, but there would be consequences. So I put one foot in front of another rather carefully, enjoying it, but I had to it was only wide enough for one foot, so I have to put them in front of each other instead of walking normally. And remembering some of the previous training to help me walk on that little wall. And at one point, I felt a little bit off balance. I didn't fall. I did not even stumble, but I veered slightly to one side. And I had to have a correction mechanism in me to balance me back to the center. At another point, since I was by a creek, there were trees, and I was looking at my feet kind of a lot so that I was, stay on the path. And my head hit a branch. Not hard, it didn't knock me out or hurt me or anything. I wasn't going that fast. And it wasn't that big a branch, but it surprised me and threw me off balance again. But I recovered very quickly and said, oh, a branch. And I didn't really think that. I just perceived that and didn't say the words to myself. But anyway. And this little wall this all happened within the space of about 30 seconds or less, walking on this little wall, because it was only about, a few feet long, 12, 15 feet long, so maybe it's more like 45 seconds. Anyway, attached to this little wall was a wider wall. It was about a foot wide. On that one, I could walk without worrying about it so much. I didn't walk on that one because the Spirit was speaking to me. By the time I got done with the little one, and I got down and, started talking. But as a Christian, the Lord's saying this is the narrow way. I think all of the word picture analogies are kind of clear. What keeps us in balance is our connection with Jesus. And if we even take our eyes off Him for a second, we can start to get unbalanced. We're not off the wall. We're not off the path. We're not out of his care. But we feel a little unbalanced. And that's kind of like when the first time when I started to lean a little bit. I'm still on that path, clearly, but there was a feeling of leaning to one side or the other. And when we start to feel unbalanced in our walk with God, we need to run to him to get us, stabilized again. Because we want to be right on that path. Now, everyone makes their own choices, but I don't want to just be on the path. I want to be dead centered, dead on the path in the perfect will of God every moment of my life, from now till eternity and beyond. So I try to be pretty careful, but even then, sometimes I might lose focus because of something. And I have to intentionally put my eyes back on the Lord and what my purposes are in this life. And I think we all need to do that pretty regularly. And I sense the teaching relating to the tree hitting me kind of unexpectedly. It was about the enemy's attack on us and the reason we have to keep our armor on, which you can read about in Ephesians 6. But, when a fiery dart hits you, you feel it hit you. It's not like you're impervious to noticing it. But it's just that it's not going to do damage when your armor's on. And that tree surprised me, but it didn't knock me off balance, and I didn't fall off the path over it. But it I had to pause a moment in my thinking and readjust my bearings just a touch because of that tree. And I think that's what sometimes happens when things, circumstances, attacks from the enemy, or whatever comes our way that we don't expect. We have to get our bearings again sometimes. And again, that's looking to Jesus and just pressing into that intimate relationship with him that he's drawing us all into and desires for us all to have with him. And the path that was bigger. It wasn't the broad way like the sidewalk, but it was broader than the narrow way. And I think that's a very dangerous path. It is a path that looks like it's going in the same direction as the other one. And in my little section of wall, it was a continuation of the other one. But down the road, you're veering from the narrowest of the narrow way, and you're likely to be open for deception if you broaden out the narrow path in any way. And then it could become the broad path to destruction. It looks kind of like the lukewarm to me. You're kind of in, kind of out. And I feel like the Lord would say, make up your mind. You can read in Revelation 3 what he thinks about and feels about lukewarmness. Not so good. So I feel like we're all being called to make sure we're in the center of the path of the narrow way. And just to give some other broadening out, one time the Lord gave me a vision of a tightrope as an expression of the Christian walk. And I thought that was cool. And he gives us special shoes, like tightrope rope walkers have these shoes that have like an indentation in them for the rope. At least some of them do, that I've known of. And they also have a bar they can balance with. But more importantly, and whatever they actually do in all different kinds of tightrope walking, I don't really know. But when I was a kid going to a circus, they had nets in the Christian life. That's when we can fall off and run to Jesus and get back on. We might be shaken up, we might be scared, but we won't be badly damaged because use our net. If you fall too far afield, you might miss the net. But see, in Christian life, it doesn't happen so in one time. It's more of a gradual process, and you kind of get outside the net range, and you're not willing to repent or come running to Him anymore. That would be when the heart becomes hard with the backslider. You really don't want to get in that place, right? So that was my tightrope vision. I never really put that in an audio, so I put that in this one. It's kind of similar. But I also recommend a book, Visions Beyond the Veil, by H.A. Baker. You can also hear it on YouTube or some other kinds of things for audio. But some of the visions that the children in that time were having in this children's home during a revival included a vision of being on kind of a tightrope over hell, or a rope bridge or something like that. It was very small, and you had to be very careful to balance all the way through. But Jesus would stabilize them, and it was part of the Lord's explaining how important it is to cling to Jesus in this life. To make it to heaven, we have to cling to Him. Even as it says in the Old Testament, we're to cling to Him. And He will stabilize us. And we'll make it when we keep our hands in His and keep looking to Him for our guidance, for our sustenance. He's going to get us there. He's our shepherd. And He will lead us there, and He will stabilize us when we need it, when we run to Him. And anyway, those are the two other kind of similar pictures that other people were given, and I was given earlier. So I just want to continue and summarize. I want to stay in the center of the path, and as such, I need to be listening very closely to Jesus through His precious Holy Spirit. And I just will encourage all of you to do the same. Because Jesus said the path to destruction is easy and broad, and the way to life is narrow, and maybe harder in some ways. But I will testify that His presence makes that narrow way much, much, much more a place of joy, peace, love, and delight, and satisfaction than any broad way that I can imagine. So it's all good with Jesus, but not easy, just good. Okay, well that's the end of this little teaching spirit session. Anyway, have a great day. Bye.